No one on the station expected a human and an alien diplomat to fall in love. Ethan Hawley was just a maintenance engineer from Earth. He fixed life support systems, patched old hulls, and drank his coffee too fast. Lyra Vesh was a Varelian envoy, calm and graceful, sent to observe human colonies. They were different in every visible way, yet strangely alike where it mattered. Their marriage was quiet. No grand celebration. No loud music. Just two beings choosing each other in a galaxy that rarely allowed such choices. For Ethan, it felt unreal. For Lyra, it felt brave. On their third night together, the station lights dimmed to artificial dusk. Outside the window, stars drifted slowly, cold and endless. Inside, the room was warm and still. Ethan noticed Lyra sitting on the edge of the bed, her long fingers tightly folded. Varelians did not fidget. When they did, it meant fear or deep conflict. "You are thinking too loudly," Ethan said gently. Lyra looked up. Her eyes shimmered, reflecting the starlight. "Yes," she replied, "because what I must say may hurt you. And that matters to me." Ethan's smile faded, but his voice stayed calm. "Then say it. I'd rather hear the truth than imagine something worse." She took a slow breath. In Virel culture, marriage is not only between two people. It is between futures. Ethan nodded. "Okay, my sister," Lyra continued. "Her name is Sira. She is younger than me, strong, intelligent, but she has never lived among humans." Ethan leaned back against the wall, listening. "She has been chosen for a dangerous assignment," Lyra said. "She will soon negotiate directly with human worlds. If she misunderstands human males, if she misjudges their nature, many could die." Ethan felt a small knot form in his chest. "What does that have to do with me?" Lyra's fingers tightened. Her voice lowered. "I want you to help her gain experience with males." The words landed heavy. For a moment, the room felt smaller. The hum of the station grew louder. Ethan did not shout. He did not move. He simply looked at his wife, searching her face for something: fear, shame, doubt. What he found instead was trust. She saw his silence and quickly raised her hands. A Varelian gesture of honesty. "Not intimacy," she said firmly. "Never that. Our bonds do not work that way. I would not dishonor you. Or myself." Ethan let out a slow breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Then what do you mean?" he asked. Lyra stood and walked closer. "I mean understanding, presence, learning how human males speak when they are calm, how they act when they are angry, how they protect without being asked." She looked into his eyes. "You showed me that humans are not what the galaxy believes. You listen. You wait. You choose restraint when force would be easier." Her voice trembled. "I want my sister to learn that. From you." Ethan looked away toward the stars. He thought about Earth, about how often humans were called violent, reckless, unstable, about how often no one bothered to learn why they fought so hard to protect what little they had. "You're asking a lot," he said quietly. "I know," Lyra replied. "That is why I ask you, not order you." Silence stretched between them. Ethan remembered fixing a broken oxygen line while pirates fired outside the hull. He remembered holding a crying child during an evacuation. He remembered being told, again and again, that humans were dangerous. Maybe they were, but danger did not mean cruelty. Finally, Ethan turned back to her. "When does she arrive?" he asked. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "You will consider it?" "I already am," he said. "If this can stop a war, if it can help someone see us as more than weapons, then yeah, I'll try." Lyra stepped forward and placed her forehead gently against his chest, a Varelian sign of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being human." Ethan rested his hand on her shoulder, looking out at the stars once more. Somewhere out there, A future waited. And once again, humanity was about to be tested not by battle, but by understanding. Sira arrived 2 days later, aboard a small diplomatic shuttle that hummed quietly as it docked. She stepped into the station with the grace of someone trained to move like a predator, her long Varelian robes flowing around her legs. Her dark eyes scanned the environment like a scanner reading unreadable codes. She did not smile, she did not bow. She observed. Every detail mattered to her. Lyra met her at the docking bay, her hands outstretched in welcome. "Sira, this is your new home for a while. And this," she said, glancing toward Ethan, "is your brother-in-law." Sira's gaze flicked to Ethan. She paused, head tilting slightly. "The male?" she asked in her clipped Varelian tone. "Yes," Lyra said softly, squeezing Ethan's hand. "This is him." Ethan straightened, offering what he hoped was a friendly smile. "Hello, I'm Ethan. Welcome to the station." Sira's eyes narrowed. She measured him as if trying to calculate the exact weight of his worth. "You are small." Her voice held neither warmth nor mockery. It was a statement, like reading a number off a screen. "And you carry no weapons." Ethan shrugged. "Usually not, no. I prefer my hands free for fixing things." Sira blinked once. That was not a response she expected. Her eyebrows flickered, a subtle sign of confusion. Humans, she realized, were strange. The first few days were tense. Sira watched everything Ethan did, but she spoke very little. When he offered to help her unpack, she accepted without gratitude. When he cooked meals in the small kitchen, she observed silently. When he spoke to the station crew with casual jokes, she tilted her head and listened, trying to understand the rhythm of his words. Ethan understood her silence. He had worked with humans and aliens alike, but Sira was different. She carried an intensity that made even seasoned diplomats pause. He could feel her judgment, yet he did not flinch. On the third day, he found her standing at the observation window, staring out at the stars. "You watch the lights," he said quietly. "Not moving closer. They are constant," she replied. "They do not lie." Ethan nodded. "That is one of the things I like about space. It does not pretend. It just exists." Sira turned her gaze to him, a question in her eyes. "Why do you not assert control over others? Even Lyra?" Ethan thought carefully. Humans were not taught to dominate by default. They were taught to endure, to choose, to protect. "Because real strength does not need to demand obedience," he said slowly. "It protects even when no one asks it to. It serves even when it receives nothing in return." Sira studied him. The words puzzled her, as if they had no exact translation in her language. She had been trained to measure strength in weapons, in strategy, in fear. This human measured it in patience and care. Later that evening, Ethan introduced her to simple human activities. He showed her how to make coffee and let it steep slowly. He explained the importance of waiting, how humans learn to hold patience like a shield. They cooked together, though Sira's movements were rigid at first, precise but lacking ease. "You seem afraid of making mistakes," Ethan observed kindly. "I am not," Sira replied. "I am careful. Mistakes cost lives." And Ethan nodded. "Sometimes careful is good. Sometimes it makes you frozen. Learning to move forward even when afraid, that is also strength." That night, as she lay in her quarters, Sira reflected on the human male beside her sister. She had expected someone weak, careless, or too emotional. Instead, she had found quiet power. He did not command. He did not intimidate. He taught by example, by patience, by the small ways humans carried responsibility. By the end of the week, Sarah's posture softened ever so slightly. She still observed, still measured, still calculated. But now there was curiosity in her gaze, not only judgment. She began to ask small questions about humans, about Earth. about why a male would risk himself for strangers or speak softly when he could shout. Ethan answered each question honestly, never forcing, never preaching. He told her about Earth's history of war and peace, about fathers and sons, about people who gave everything without expecting reward. He told her about courage that was invisible, strength that did not roar. And for the first time, Sira considered the possibility that a human male could be more than a tool of war. He could be a teacher, a protector, a guide. As she drifted to sleep that night, Sira realized something she had never admitted. She was beginning to trust him. And in Varelian culture, trust was rarer than life itself. Ethan, meanwhile, looked out at the stars, thinking quietly. This would not be easy. Teaching Sira would take patience, endurance, and understanding. But he also knew something deeper. Sometimes, being human meant showing someone else how to be human, even across a galaxy that expected fear, not trust. The station hummed with quiet activity. Crew members moved past Sira and Ethan as if they were ghosts in their own world. Sira had been observing Ethan for nearly a week now, and she was learning more than she expected about humans, about trust, and most surprisingly, about herself. Ethan decided it was time to show her more than words. He led her to the small communication room, walls lined with screens showing Earth recordings, people working, people laughing, people crying. He pressed play on a clip of a human father holding a newborn child. The baby's small fingers curled around his father's thumb, and the man's eyes filled with tears. Sira's crest flickered in confusion. "This is weakness," she said, her voice low. Ethan shook his head. "No," he replied gently. "This is choice. He chooses to care. He chooses to protect. He chooses to feel even when it's hard." Sira tilted her head, watching the man's trembling hands. She had been trained to measure strength in combat, in speed, in fear. She had never considered strength in tenderness, in patience. Ethan next showed her a clip of a human soldier standing guard over an entire village, alone, while enemies approached from the horizon. The man's posture was calm, steady. He did not attack immediately. He waited. He protected. Sira's eyes narrowed. He waits? When he could strike? Ethan nodded. Humans do not always strike. Sometimes the strongest action is the one you do not take. Waiting, watching, protecting. That is strength too. For the first time, Sira paused and listened without judgment. She began to understand that humans measured strength differently. It was not always in weapons or aggression. It could be in patience, in endurance, in holding back when it would be easier to act. After the recordings, Ethan took her on a walk outside the station. The stars stretched endlessly above them, cold and distant, yet comforting in their constancy. He taught her about human humor, their awkward attempts at connection, their tendency to apologize even when not guilty. Why do humans apologize for things they did not do? Sira asked, genuinely puzzled. Because it shows empathy, Ethan explained. It tells the other person you care about their feelings, even if you didn't cause harm. Sometimes it is stronger to acknowledge someone else's pain than to defend your pride. Sira listened, absorbing every word. She realized she had never seen this before. In her training, acknowledgement of weakness was forbidden. Showing care was considered a distraction from efficiency. But here, with this human male, it was a strength she could not deny. The next day, a minor accident shook the station. A maintenance panel sparked near the habitation module, filling the corridors with smoke. Ethan did not panic. He guided the crew calmly, instructing them to evacuate and stay safe. Sira expected him to grab a weapon or attack the source. Instead, he coordinated, helped, and protected without violence. Watching him, Sira understood. Humans could be fragile, but they could also be the shield that others relied upon. Ethan's strength was quiet, but undeniable. It did not dominate. It did not control, it carried responsibility and bore it willingly. Later that evening, Sira confronted him. "You never fight, even when it would be easier," she said. Ethan smiled faintly. "I fight differently. I fight to protect, not to conquer. Sometimes the battle is in holding back, not in striking first." Sira studied him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to respect him without reserve. She had been taught that humans were unpredictable, sometimes dangerous. But she had seen Ethan face challenges without aggression, without fear of judgment, without the need to prove himself. He simply acted. He simply cared. That night, as she prepared for sleep, Sira reflected on her own life. She had been trained to rely on logic and control, to dominate any situation she could, to measure worth by efficiency and precision. But she had begun to see a different kind of power, the human kind, quiet and patient, yet stronger than many she had encountered in her world. And slowly, she began to trust. Not blindly, not immediately, but a trust that grew with each small act, each calm decision, each moment of care Ethan displayed. In that quiet room, with the hum of the station as their lullaby, Sira understood the first lesson her sister had asked her to learn. Strength was not always loud. Sometimes it was quiet. Sometimes it was gentle. And sometimes it was human. She did not yet know the full measure of it, but she wanted to. And that desire, that curiosity, was the beginning of everything. Days passed quietly at the station, but peace was fragile. Sira had begun to understand humans, but others noticed her unusual behavior. The Varelian Council had been watching. They were not pleased. To them, a young diplomat showing curiosity toward a human male was dangerous, unpredictable, untrustworthy. One morning, Sira was summoned. The council chamber was vast, filled with high ceilings and shimmering panels. Elder diplomats sat in their ceremonial robes, their eyes sharp, their crests flickering in suspicion. Sira entered with measured steps, head held high, yet her mind raced. She had been trained for scrutiny, for interrogation, for tests that measured strategy and obedience. This felt different. Ethan had not been invited. Lyra had warned him. The council might accuse him of manipulation, of turning Sira's judgment with his human influence. Sira faced the elders. Their leader, a stern figure with silver streaks along her crest, leaned forward. "Sira Vesh," she said, voice echoing in the chamber, "you have been seen associating unusually with this human male. Tell us, has he altered your behavior? Has he changed your judgment?" Sira's eyes flicked to the floor for a moment, then she lifted her gaze. Her voice was steady, calm, but carried weight. "He taught me nothing improper," she said. "Nothing that breaches duty or honor." An elder hissed softly. "We warned you, child. Humans are dangerous. They are unpredictable. How can a Varelian trust a human male?" Sira's crest flickered, a sign of internal conflict. But she remembered Ethan, his patience, his calm, his steady presence. She remembered the spark panel that could have burned the module, and how he saved the crew without raising a weapon. She remembered the recordings of fathers holding children, and soldiers standing silently to protect others. She remembered how humans fought not for conquest, but for protection. "They are strong in ways our records do not measure," she said, lifting her head. "And I have seen it with my own eyes." He did not command, he did not threaten. He protected. He guided. He taught me that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it watches. Sometimes it carries. And sometimes it waits. The elders murmured among themselves. One of them leaned forward. "Are you saying you respect a human male more than the training you received here?" Sira's crest rose slightly, an echo of pride. "I am saying that he has shown me a kind of strength that does not dominate, that does not harm, that does not demand obedience. That is worth respect." There was a tense silence. The chamber was still. Then, a low, Sharp warning sounded. The station's sensors had detected a fleet of enemy ships approaching the Varelian border. Alarm lights flickered, bathing the council chamber in red. Panic could have taken over. Others might have shouted, issued orders, called for weapons. But Sira did not. She turned to the council. "We do not have time for argument," she said. "We must act. And I know what humans do in this situation. We can learn from them. Calmly, carefully, we can protect our people without fear." The elders hesitated. Their rigid beliefs clashed with the reality pressing toward them. Sira's words, echoing Ethan's lessons, carried clarity. One elder finally nodded. "Very well. Let her speak. Let her guide us if she can." Sira's eyes searched the horizon through the chamber's viewports. She imagined Ethan coordinating evacuations, protecting civilians, saving lives without aggression. She imagined his patience and trust, and she understood fully what she must do. "We will evacuate key personnel first," she instructed, her voice calm and firm. "We will protect civilians. We will not attack unless provoked. We will hold the enemy at bay, using strategy and care, not recklessness or fear." The council murmured, unsure. But she continued, unwavering. "We will act like humans, in the way that carries others, not in the way that conquers. And it will succeed if we remain disciplined and patient." Hours later, after the first defensive maneuvers were completed, Sira reported back. Every decision she made mirrored what she had observed from Ethan. Evacuations were efficient, casualties minimized, panic controlled. The council could not deny it, the human way. Guided by a Varelian who had learned its value, had worked as the fleet retreated. The elders turned to Sira with a mixture of awe and hesitation. "You have learned something they could not teach us," one said quietly. "You have seen the strength in what we dismissed." Sira looked toward the viewport, imagining Ethan standing quietly, observing the chaos yet protecting life. She understood fully now what her sister had asked her to learn. Not obedience, not fear, understanding, trust, humanity in action. And for the first time, she realized that humans could teach Varelians something that no training could: courage without violence, strength without dominance, and the power of patience when every instinct demanded attack. Her gaze softened. She whispered to herself, almost like a prayer, "I understand. I finally understand." The council had questioned her. They had doubted her judgment. But Sira had proven that sometimes lessons from another world could save more than lives. They could save hearts, minds, and entire civilizations. The station's alarms had barely quieted when the first human ships appeared on the viewport. They were not many, but their presence was undeniable, a silent, steady line of light cutting through the void. Sira's eyes widened, a mixture of awe and uncertainty. She had never seen humans arrive not to conquer, not to demand, but simply to stand beside another species. Ethan stood beside her, calm as ever. "They're here," he said quietly, his hand resting on her shoulder for reassurance. "Not to take command, not to fight for us, just to help." Sira studied the ships, the hum of their engines almost a song in the silent space. She had expected force, aggression, humans showing dominance. Instead, she saw alignment, coordination, and purpose. The humans acted like Ethan, quiet, deliberate, protective. The enemy fleet hovered at the edge of Varelian space, its intentions clear. But the humans did not rush. They formed shields around key stations and civilian transports. They communicated not with threats, but with guidance, instructing evacuation corridors, providing defense plans, and predicting enemy maneuvers. Sira realized in a sudden clarity that all the lessons Ethan had shown her were now in motion on a scale she had never imagined. Patience, presence, strength without dominance, courage without fear. Humans embodied it all, just as Ethan had taught. She turned to Ethan, voice barely above a whisper. They fight differently. They protect, even when it is dangerous, even when no one ordered them. Ethan nodded. That's what humans do. Not always the strongest in firepower, but strongest in heart. As the Varelian fleet scrambled to respond, Sira found herself coordinating with humans on strategy. She repeated what she had learned: calm observation, careful decisions. Human officers followed her instructions without question, trusting her because she had learned their way. She moved like Ethan had moved, not commanding, not dominating, but guiding. A sudden alarm rang. The enemy had breached a minor outpost. Panic threatened to spread, but Sira held her ground. Evacuate civilians first. Protect the station's core systems. Do not engage unless necessary, she ordered. Her voice was firm, clear, and calm. Her actions mirrored Ethan's example perfectly. The humans acted swiftly, evacuating those in danger, securing the perimeter, and holding positions without unnecessary confrontation. Their restraint, their patience, and their determination surprised Sira more than the enemy's attack. Every move was deliberate, every risk calculated. By the time the enemy realized they were being outmaneuvered without the expected aggression, they had already lost their advantage. Human strategy, combined with Sira's guidance, had turned what could have been disaster into careful containment. Hours later, the enemy ships retreated, leaving the Varelian system intact. The council had gathered, watching in stunned silence. Sira stepped forward, her posture calm but resolute. She had absorbed Ethan's lessons fully and applied them on a scale that mattered not for herself, but for countless lives. The council members whispered among themselves, astonished. One elder, the same who had doubted her in the chamber, finally spoke. This is not the way we were taught. But it worked. And no lives were lost unnecessarily. Sira turned toward Ethan, feeling a warmth in her chest she could not name. She had learned not just observation, but understanding. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but not because of chaos. They were unpredictable because of their principles. Their choice to protect and endure even when it was easier to act violently. Ethan approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," he said simply. "You didn't just follow instructions. You understood why they mattered. You guided others without forcing them. That's true strength." Sira's crest flickered, a subtle sign of emotion she did not usually allow herself. I could not have done it without seeing you first," she admitted. Ethan shook his head gently. "No, you did it yourself. I just showed you the way humans try to act." Lyra joined them then, her eyes shining with pride and relief. She took Sira's hand, then Ethan's. "You've done more than I could have hoped," she said. "Both of you. You have saved lives not by war, but by understanding." Sira looked out at the human ships, feeling something she had never expected: admiration, gratitude, and a newfound respect. Humans, small and seemingly fragile, had arrived not as conquerors, but as guardians. And now she understood fully the lesson her sister had entrusted to Ethan. Strength was not measured in weapons, nor in power, nor in fear. Strength was measured in the choice to protect, to endure, to guide, to act with care when all others rushed to violence. And humanity, once again, had shown its value not in domination, but in courage, patience, and the quiet, steadfast power of being human. The station was quiet now, the chaos of the fleet's retreat fading into soft hums and blinking lights. Sira sat in her quarters, staring out at the stars, her mind still racing. She had witnessed humans in action, not as conquerors, but as guardians. She had seen Ethan remain calm in danger, patient in moments of tension, strong without demanding obedience. And now she felt a strange weight settle on her chest, the responsibility to carry what she had learned. For days, she had measured strength by combat skill, by precision, by dominance. But now, she understood that true power could be invisible. It could be patience in the face of fear. It could be protection without glory, It could be standing last in line, yet saving the most. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but in ways that were meaningful. Their unpredictability came from choice, not instinct. From care, not cruelty. Ethan's lessons echoed in her mind. The small acts of kindness, the quiet attention to detail, the humor in stressful moments, all of it mattered. And she realized she could carry these lessons into her own life, into her role as a diplomat, into the Varelian Council itself. She rose and walked to the observation deck. The stars were endless, stretching in every direction, cold and beautiful. She could feel the presence of the humans who had arrived to help, their calm coordination, their willingness to protect without demanding anything in return. She thought of Ethan and how he had taught her, simply by being himself, that humans could be more than what stereotypes claimed. Lyra joined her quietly, standing at her side. "You've changed," she said softly. "I have learned," Sira replied, her voice steady. "Not just about humans, but about strength and courage and patience. I understand now that being strong is not about power. It is about choice. It is about protecting what matters, even when no one watches, even when no one thanks you." Lyra nodded, eyes glistening. "That is why I asked Ethan to teach you. You had the skill, the mind, the training, but you needed understanding. And now you have it." Sira's crest flickered, a subtle sign of humility and resolve. "He never forced me. He never ordered me. He showed me by example, by patience, by care, that is. More powerful than any weapon I have ever trained with." Ethan entered quietly then, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. She looked at him, and for the first time she spoke without hesitation. "I choose to carry this. Not for you, not for my sister, not for the humans, but for everyone who will rely on me. I will act with patience, with care, with courage. And I will remember what true strength looks like." Ethan smiled, but it was not a proud or boastful smile. It was calm, gentle, the way humans smiled when they saw someone truly understand something that mattered. "You didn't need to choose me. You had to choose yourself. That's the lesson." Sira nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She had chosen, yes, but more than that, she had grown. She had learned to see beyond the rigid rules of her upbringing, to measure value not in efficiency or power, but in the quiet strength that carried others forward. Lyra squeezed her hand, her voice soft but firm. "The Council will recognize your work, Sira, but you already know its value. It is not in their approval, it is in the lives you protected and the lives you will continue to protect." Sira took a deep breath, looking at Ethan one last time before returning to the observation deck. The stars seemed brighter now, not because they had changed, but because she had. She understood fully now why her sister had asked for Ethan's help. Not because he was a human male, not because of his species, but because he embodied what humans could be at their best: patient, caring, courageous, and steady. He had given her the experience not of domination, but of guidance. Not of power, but of responsibility. And with that understanding, she made a silent vow. She would honor the lessons she had been given. She would act with care, protect without expectation, and lead with patience. She would carry humanity into her own people's world, proving that the quiet strength of one human male could ripple across galaxies. Ethan watched her quietly, knowing that the lesson was complete. Sira's eyes reflected the stars, calm and bright, a mirror of the strength she had learned to carry. No one could take that from her. And somewhere deep inside, Sira smiled, not just at the stars, but at the knowledge that she had learned what truly mattered and that the galaxy would be better for it. Years passed, and the memory of the fleet's attack became history, written in reports and diplomatic records. Yet for Sira, the lessons she had learned did not fade. She carried them into every council meeting, every negotiation, every tense discussion. She moved differently now, her posture calm but strong, her decisions measured not only by logic, but by understanding the understanding Ethan had taught her. The Varelian Council had changed too. Slowly, quietly, they began to notice that diplomacy could succeed without threats, that patience could achieve what force never could. Sira often reminded them of the humans' actions, how they had arrived not to dominate, but to protect. She described Ethan's calm, deliberate guidance, how one human male's example had reshaped her perspective. The elders listened, first with skepticism, then with respect. They realized that what humans offered was rare, strength measured by care, courage measured by